Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. As we've done every night, we'll wait a few moments for people to log in. Is it just me? Does Thursday seem like Friday? I know you have online school to do tomorrow, but for me, this is my last teaching class for the week, so it kind of seems like a Friday for me. So please sign in so I know that you're here. Hopefully we'll have a full class. I haven't heard from anybody that was saying, remember that if you are not going to be present for class, that you need to text me. Let me know why. That way I can give you an idea of what we're covering, because we're a little bit off from the schedule that I gave you. Also to remind you what your homework is and when you're going to view it. I don't mind you viewing it at a different point, but remember to watch it in its entirety and to answer the questions that we go over along the way. Oh, wow, we are up to 8, so I think we almost have a full class. Like I do with every class, before we get going, let me just kind of turn this down here a little bit. I do have a few openings for tomorrow. I have 3 o'clock open if anybody would like to drive, and I have Saturday afternoon. I think I have 3 o'clock and a 4 o'clock. And Monday, 4 o'clock, I have open. So please contact me. Remember, this is your responsibility, but I would like people to be driving during this class, because when the next class starts, which is right after yours, they will be talking to me online like we are right now, and they're going to get the prime spots. So you're going to get leftovers. Right now, it's prime spots for you. So please, now I know if you have studies, we're pretty much locked in, so I know at least 3 of you are going to be perfectly fine getting done by the end of the program, so that's going to be a good thing. We kind of left off last night's class talking about traffic signals, so let's kind of jump right into where we left off. I'd like to kind of get through sign signals, pavement markings, and get into stopping and speed tonight. So this is basically where we left off, and we were talking about traffic lights that change according to traffic flow. It's important that traffic not wait any longer than it needs to. So when these mechanisms that are in the ground at the intersection senses that cars are waiting, that's why lights are changing. And the more that you drive with me, the more you're going to see how it actually plays out in real time. And hopefully you're going to be able to do this with your parents with a little bit of practice. Now, this is not in your... Oh, Julian can drive. That's awesome. Let's take 3. You've got 3 o'clock. I'll put you down. I just saw it come across the screen. Thank you for taking that drive time. This is not in the state manual. This is not in your responsible driving textbook, so I want you to write this down. Opticom light. If you take a look at the traffic light, okay, and there are 2 red lights above the vehicle that's in front of us. If you look very, very closely, there is a little red light that's in between the 2. That is called an Opticom light. And what that means, this is what I want you to write down. When the Opticom red light starts to flash, there's an emergency vehicle in the area. A police car, an ambulance, a fire truck is somewhere nearby. Now, if you take a look at the photo that I have, and it's really kind of hard to tell because it's just a picture and not a video, but when an Opticom light comes on, everybody at the intersection has a red light. That's going to allow the police vehicle to get through the intersection quickly and safely. please do not turn right on red with your red light with the Opticom on. So you've got to remember that. The other behavior that you should write down, when you see an emergency vehicle coming towards you. Now, we don't have to necessarily be near the intersection, but when you have an emergency vehicle, especially when it's coming behind you, the behavior that you need to take behind the wheel is to put your right signal on and move over as close to the edge of the road as you possibly can get. Now, if you take a look at the picture here, what would happen if you are to the left of where we are? Everybody moves to the right of their lane. That is going to open up a spot close to the center line for the emergency vehicle to get by. So everybody shifts to the right. Now, once the emergency vehicle goes by, we use our signal, we check our rearview mirror, side view mirror, we look over our shoulder, and then we can move back out into traffic. Now, be careful, because people that have pulled over behind you, if you react too slowly to get back out onto the road, they may be passing you as you try to come out. So that's why it's so important to be making those checks. And this happens in every state. Emergency vehicles are going to try to clear through the intersection. We just talked about emergency vehicles. Turning right on red. Okay, there are 3 things that have to take place. So write this down. It is legal to turn right on red in every state of the country. Now, in some cities, major cities, it is illegal to do. Probably like New York, Washington, D.C., certain sections of Boston probably. Because traffic is so heavy, it's just going to create gridlock. But most traffic intersections allow for a movement to the right, a right-hand turn, after stopping. So what I want you to write down, always look for a sign. If they don't want you to do it, they're going to actually post it on a sign. It'll say, no turn on red light. Now, in Durham, where we do a lot of our driving, there's a sign that's telling you that you can't do it when there's a walk signal or a countdown that's taking place. That's different than not saying that you can't turn right on red. They're just stating the situations where you can't do it. It's not saying that you can't do it in all situations. So make sure that you understand you cannot turn right on red if there's a pedestrian crossing in front of you. You've got to wait for the pedestrian to make it all the way across the road. You don't want to be cutting them off. When traffic lights don't work, okay, I want you to write this down. When traffic lights don't work, let's say because of a snowstorm, an accident where someone plows into a utility pole, knocks over the power supply, all intersections become a 4-way stop. So write that down. When traffic lights are not functional, they're not working, treat it like a 4-way stop. Everybody coming to the intersection stops. Whoever was stopped first gets to go first. If 2 people come at the same time, the vehicle to the right goes first. If 2 cars are coming at each other, one is going straight, one's turning left. The car that's going straight has the right of way over the car turning left. And we're going to be talking about these situations about right of way a little bit later tonight. And this section, I believe it's section 3 in the state manual. I want you to read it and read it and read it. You need to know everything that we're covering tonight and from last night. Like I said, this is the meat and potatoes of driver's ed, the basic laws of movement of your vehicle, what you're allowed to do and what you're not able to do. If you get a good grasp of what we're talking about last night and tonight, it's going to serve you so well out on the roadway. The picture to the right is at a railroad crossing. Now, another thing that I want you to understand, wonder if at a railroad crossing there are flashing lights telling you to stop. There's no arm to the railroad. There's no gate coming down. Should you go around a gate, or if there's no gate, if there's blinking lights, should you still go over the track? No. Okay? If there's a problem, and I'm going to show you a video about railroad safety, because people do get kind of hung up of what to do when things are malfunctioning. Or do I really have to wait for a train? If I think I can get around the gate, can I do that? Because I'm really not hurting the train if I do it quickly. And of course, that's not the wise thing to do. I was just looking for a video that I thought that I had. I just don't see where I have it. Lights turn green. What you need to understand that when a light turns green, it does allow you to go through the intersection. But what I want you to not underline, but to write down in your notes is that if you're the first one going through an intersection at a green light, you should always take a second or two to check to the left, check to the right, to make sure that there are no cars running a red light. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for my, oh, there's the running red light. Okay, I do have it all queued up. I'll show it to you in a bit. The light turns yellow. I think I have a little clip of this. Okay, here we go. This is actually Durham. This is over near the Wit. So we're stuck behind a line of traffic, and it's going to turn green. So we're pretty far back. What I want you to understand is that when the light turns yellow, you should be able to get all the way across. If you see the light, now watch. I know it's kind of hard to see, but look at the traffic light. It's still green. We're still moving. Now, at some point, the light's going to turn yellow. See, it's yellow. Did we see it turn red? No, we did not. So we did not run a red light. It stayed yellow the entire time. So if we kind of go back, I'm going to just freeze this for a second because we don't need to see us going into town. But if you're going through a green light, which turns yellow, and as you're looking up, you can see the red light, you're on this side of the intersection. You are actually running a red light. You need to be directly underneath when it's yellow the entire time. If you're on this side, if you're in front of the light when it's going from yellow to red, you're technically running a red light. Now, as we saw in the video last night, there is a buffer between light changes. So a buffer means that the light isn't going to turn green for people to the right or to the left right off. There's like a second or two. All right. And someone told me, and I think it might have even been in the video, that the faster the speed is for a particular traffic light, the longer the buffer needs to be, because you have to give people time to clear through the intersection. So the slower the speed limit, the quicker the light change. The faster the speed, and I think people have kind of caught on to this, and this is why people are having a tendency to run red lights, is because I got a buffer, I can still make it, I can do it. That's the wrong way to take a look at going through a yellow light. Now if I can find where I was. Okay, here we are. So what I want you to write down, this is not in the state manual, this is not in the textbook, this is something that we have developed, okay? It's pretty common. Most driving schools use the same terminology, although I tend to think that I was one of the first. We call it the point of no return. What that means is as you approach a green light, you look to something on the side of the road or on the road, like a crack in the road, could be maybe a sign off to the right, and you say to yourself, at going 30 miles per hour, if I get to that sign, just as it turns yellow, I've made up my mind I'm going to go through. That's called the point of no return. That is the point you've already made up your mind before the light changes. If you're in front of that point, you've got plenty of time to stop. You've got time and distance to stop. If you're past the line, there's no way you can stop. You'd end up in the middle of the intersection. It would be too hard of a break. So know your speed and stopping distance when you choose that point of no return. Also, what you should always know is check your mirror behind you. You don't get any extra points with me or with the state if you stop super quick so you don't run that traffic light. You're so afraid that the yellow light's turning red, you slam on the brakes, but then you get hit from behind. That's not a good trade-off. Okay? It would probably almost be better for you to go through the traffic light as it just turns red because you know you have that buffer. Because remember, when the light turns, the people behind you may think, oh, the driver's ed car is going to go faster, so I'm going to go with it. But you change your mind real quick. You're slowing down quickly. They're speeding up. That's going to be your rear end collision. So you can practice this with your parents. You don't have to be in the driver's ed vehicle. So as your parents drive, your brother or sister drives, a friend drives, look at a green light and think to yourself, if this driver gets to this crack in the road, let's see if he stops. I'll almost guarantee, and I'm going to have you do it right now, whether it's on your phone or on the comments here. Let's get people to chime in tonight. Have you been in a vehicle with someone driving where they've gone through a red light? You looked up at the light's red as they're going underneath. Let's see how many people are honest. Because I think you're going to find just about everybody's going to admit that they've been in a vehicle with somebody, probably a parent, that's gone through a red light. That's something that you should be proud of. Now, traffic lights with arrows. A green arrow, I want you to write down in your notes, is a protected turn. This is the type of light that you hope to encounter every time that you come to an intersection. Yep, see, everybody's agreeing. Look at that. We're all in the same boat. And guess what? You're gonna do it too. I've done it. Okay, I've gone through a light that I thought I had enough time to go through and it was turning red. But the mentality that most people have now is that yellow doesn't mean slow down and try to clear the intersection. It means speed up and try to beat the light before it turns red. And that's where you're going to get in trouble. So I'm going to try to change your mind, change your philosophy as you try to approach a traffic light. So back to arrows. You are going to welcome arrows. A green arrow is what we call a protected turn, meaning you're the only one going in that particular direction. Any car that's coming towards you, off to the left, off to the right, will have a red light. They can only turn right on red after yielding to you and your green arrow. Now, a red arrow to the right still means stop. I am shocked at how many people get to the end of my program and we're driving and they still ask me what they should do at a red arrow. You've got to be kidding me. You've just completed driver's ed or almost completed driver's ed and you're still baffled by what to do with a red arrow? Come on. Red always means stop. Always. Okay, so a red arrow means stop. Look for a sign. What does the sign say? No turn on red arrow. We have to wait for the green protected arrow. Now, here it's going to get a little bit complicated. All right, so write this down. I'll guarantee maybe your parents don't even know this. I'll guarantee that you'll trip up your parents if you ask this question. Okay, here's the question. When you're done tonight's class, or if your parents are somewhere in the room, ask them this question. When can you turn left on a red light? When can you turn left on a red light? I bet your parents will say never. Okay? Guess what? You can turn left on a red light that's blinking. A blinking red arrow to the left, a blinking red circle light is like a stop sign. So at a stop sign, we check for traffic. If nothing's coming, then we go. You do not have to wait for a blinking red light to turn green because there's no blinking green light. It's always a solid green light. But I'll guarantee your parents will get tripped up on that question. All right? Okay, always look for traffic around you. This is a picture. I couldn't find the movie that goes along with it, but just to the right of the first car, to the gold van, in this video shows a car speeding through an intersection through a red light between moving cars that are traveling at around 30 miles per hour. Just barely making it through without hitting another vehicle. Now, the reason why we have this video possible, and the ones that I'm going to show you in a moment, is because there are cameras at intersections. So I want you to write this down. A lot of metropolitan cities in the country have gone to what we call photo enforcement. Photo enforcement is where they give you a ticket for speeding, for running red lights, but it's given to you not by a police officer. It's given to you by a camera that has taken a picture, and your ticket is sent to you in the mail. So you never encounter a police officer screaming at you, "Why did you just do this?" You just open up the mail and you find out you've got a $120 speeding ticket or a $80 running a red light ticket. It's like, I don't remember doing that. Of course you don't remember it. You didn't get stopped that day. The ticket came in the mail about a week later. Photo enforcement. The camera takes a picture and it sends the ticket to the registration address. Okay, let's take a look at some red light runners. I think this is where it is. Now, one thing that you're going to notice is that the severity of these red light runners, it gets worse as you go along. Okay, there's the red light, 1, 2, 3 seconds. And by the way, that stop line way over to the left, that's called a display stop line. Notice it's not the same on the right-hand side. The left-hand stop line is further up. We call that a display stop line. So let's count when the light turns red. So we look at the yellow light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seconds the light was red, and he's still trying to go through. Kind of hard to see the light. There's a red light, 1, 2, 3, about a 3, 4 second. And notice the car started to move. As I said earlier, when the light turns green and you're the first vehicle, you should hesitate, check, look. One, 2, 3, 4. About 4 or 5 seconds. Look, he even splits vehicles to get through. Remember that a lot of these people could be on their phone, talking or being distracted. This guy gets past. Watch this. The U-Haul goes around him and still runs the red light. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then he realizes, uh-oh, big trucks. They're bigger than me. I better stop. This is not going to work out. Now they're going to get a little bit worse. There's another display stop line. Ooh, hit the side of the car. There's some damage. And notice there's multiple lanes too. So a lot of times you don't even see when you get a green light, you think I can go through. Some of those cars that are stopped doing the legal thing, the right thing, like right now that bus blocked that white car, didn't see that the other cars were coming. Those stopped vehicles acted as a shield. Now, I think number 2 is worse than number 1. Let me know if you think this is worse than number 1. I think this is the worst one we see. Yup, he just hit a pedestrian. Put him right up into the air. He's trying to crawl off. Now, this I don't think is that bad. Okay, hitting a school bus, but he's bigger. I don't think there were any kids on the bus. Now, this is an extra. They're going to actually show you two views, northbound and southbound. So here's the traffic light that's changing. You're going to see that's a car that stops, and then you're going to see a car go whizzing right by. So here's the car that's stopping, and there's the car that's whizzing right by. So let's take a video view of what it looks like from the opposite side of the road, from the other camera in the other direction. Both cars are way back. So the light is changing right now. Right now it's a red light. So notice the car is stopping up. The other car is still speeding up to get by. That is what you've got to look out for. That is what you're going to encounter when you're out on the road. Okay, red light cameras are working, which means they are taking pictures and they're sending this to the Department of Safety, and then they're sending out a ticket to you. And that's why we had these videos. Pretty scary. Crosswalks. Let's talk about crosswalks. The question comes up a lot, what should I do with pedestrians? If you know that they're crossing the road, now if they're on a crosswalk, we're supposed to yield to them, which means to slow down and stop and let them cross. Once they get halfway across and they're going opposite of where you're going, then go by. And that's what yield means. Yield means you're not impeding what they're trying to do. And like I said earlier, I think the first week of class, a better word for yield is wait. So when you see a pedestrian, think, should I wait? Well, if they're walking off the sidewalk out into the roadway, you better wait. If they get halfway across, they're not interfering with what you're trying to do now. Should you wait? Probably not. Just go slowly by. And I always like stopping about 10 to 15 feet from the crosswalk so they don't feel too nervous about us being there. You don't want to be right up on top of the crosswalk where they could almost reach out and touch the vehicle. And the other thing is that if they're walking in front of you and you're still moving, we call that pushing the pedestrian. So be very careful about movement when pedestrians are in front of you. The other thing that we've got to be watchful for is blind people. Now, a blind person will have a white cane with a red tip, or they're being led by a guide dog. We do have people that are blind in Durham, and we have people that are blind in Dover. We have encountered them when we're out driving, so they're there. So don't think it just isn't going to happen to you. So be aware of these people as they try to cross the road. And they're very, how should I put it? They have a hard time dealing with hybrids because we're so quiet, because they can't hear the engine. So it really kind of throws them off, and does throw the guide dog off too. So just be aware of that. And that's another reason why you should be back 10, 15 feet. So you don't kind of scare the dog. In some cities, we have bicycle lights and we have bicycle lanes. So they're going to be controlled just like they would with an automobile. Green means go, yellow, clear the intersection, and red means stop. So it says here 16 cities, but this is an older picture. I think we've almost doubled or tripled that now with a number of major cities that have gone to bicycle lights. Because what we were finding is that a lot of bikes were getting in crashes is because they weren't obeying the red lights. They could see there was a gap in traffic or no traffic, and they didn't want to wait, so they were just kind of barreling through, and then they just may have missed a car that was coming. So they figured if they gave them, their own traffic light, they would be more apt to do the right thing. And it has changed a little bit. Their behavior has been a little bit less aggressive. If you ever get a chance to travel or to drive in another country, international signs will have the same color and shapes that we have here. Now, of course, the word says taxi, so it's the same word that we have here. But even though you may not understand the word, like do not enter, you can tell by the shape and the color of the sign and what it's trying to convey. And in some countries, you may have to take a short road test. I shouldn't say road test, a written test in order to drive. But for the most part, you can just use your own license. They want a copy of your driver's license, like in October last year. Oh, wow, it's been a whole year. Today's October 1st. A year ago, last October, I had a chance to go to Italy and drive in Italy. And I didn't have to take the written test. It was just having proof of my driver's license with me. And I had to pay a fee and give them a copy of my New Hampshire driver's license so they could match up if I ever got pulled over. They were just going to tie into the database that the United States has for the licensing system. So it was kind of cool. It was a little bit different. Roads are very narrow. They go very fast on the highway, but it was a lot of fun. So hopefully at some point in your life, you'll get a chance to drive in another country. Can you explain this sign? Why is the word seek backwards? How come the person in that red vehicle is on the wrong side of the vehicle driving? Okay, I took this picture in the side view mirror while I was stopped. And the reason why I did that is because when you look in your mirrors, things are going to be backwards. If you ever get a chance to take a look at an ambulance from the front, next time you do this, watch. The word ambulance is spelled backwards. Because when the ambulance comes up behind you and you look in your mirror, guess what? It's going to be spelled correctly. All right? So that's why it is backwards. So if you see lettering on vehicles on the front that are spelled backwards, it's because they want people that are looking in their mirrors to be able to read it correctly. So be very careful when you use your mirrors, the information that you're getting. It's going to be altered. The future of our signs. This is over in Europe, but I was just looking online at a Toyota. I was looking at a RAV4 that I'm really interested in maybe getting. They have this now in American cars, and it's kind of cool, is that as you get closer to traffic signs, they get illuminated on your instrument panel. Because one of the problems that we have, and we talked about inattention blindness this week, is that you can't pay attention to everything. So you may be paying attention to like 50 people that just came out of a building at UNH, and you may have forgotten what was the speed limit that I just passed in the last 200 feet. Okay, well, it's going to be on your dashboard now. It's actually going to be illuminated until you get a distance away, and then it picks up a different sign. So let me show you. I think I've got it here. Right here.
While driving, one passes so many traffic signs that sometimes even important information, such as speed limits or no overtaking signs, can get lost. The driver can also sometimes be distracted by traffic and not notice some of the signs. The Ford Traffic Sign Recognition System eliminates this issue by showing important traffic sign information in the instrument panel cluster. On display are speed limits and bans on overtaking, as well as their cancellation. The front camera records the traffic signs and transmits the respective data to the vehicle's traffic sign recognition system. The traffic sign recognition system uses an aging algorithm. This means that recently detected signs appear lighter. After a while, the color gets darker until the signs begin to gray out and finally completely disappear. This helps to make the driver aware of changes in real time.
I think that's a great option to have in a vehicle now. I think we're going to see more and more of that with technology. That'll be standard in most vehicles now. Now, let's talk about road markings. There are 4 things that I want you to remember about road markings. Okay, first one is color. So we're going to talk about the left of your vehicle first. So if the color to the left of your vehicle is yellow, we know it's oncoming traffic. If the color to the left of you is white, then you've got a lane next to you that's going in the same direction. So the color tells us direction. Yellow, two-way, white way, white, one-way. The white line to the right of your vehicle will always mark the edge of the road. Sometimes you're going to hear that referred to as the fog line. That's the line that you're going to be looking at when you drive in fog, because you don't want to drift towards the center of the road. You want to drive more to the right center of the road. Now, if the line is solid on the left side of you, that means no passing. If the line is broken next to you, passing's allowed. Okay? So it could be broken yellow, it could be broken white. There are a few other things that I want you to be familiar with, and this was from the textbook. And remember, with the textbook, some people were giving me some of the answers, or I looked at the test scores. You should be scoring pretty high on these tests that I've been, or chapter reviews that I've been giving you, because you get to look through the book. Okay, dig it up. If you don't know the answer, look it up. So multi-lanes, we kind of just talked about the dotted yellow and dotted white. Rural roads, the solid yellow, solid white lines, broken. We talked about crosswalks and stop lines. But the one term in the bottom right-hand corner there, if you take a look at that roadway, there is a yellow strip, a yellow special line, or in the middle of the road. That is called a shared turn lane. That means that people in both directions can go into that middle area to make a left-hand turn. You are not to make a left-hand turn from the traveling lane. You need to move into that shared left turn lane to make a turn. So the question is, what happens if I want to make a left-hand turn and I move into that lane and another person comes in the lane and they want to make a left turn just opposite of where I want to make mine? Aren't we going to crash into one another? Yeah, it's possible. So what you want to always remember is that when another vehicle moves into that lane, you should always leave at least 2 car lengths between the two vehicles. So just stop. Even if you have to move up forward to make your left-hand turn, be the bigger person, stop. Let that person stay in the shared turn lane because they're facing you now. We're going, front bumper to front bumper with this vehicle. Wait for them to make their turn. Once they make their left turn, then move up another 10, 15 feet to get ready to make your left turn. Or they may let you go first, and then they're going to move up and make their left turn. So if you're sharing the lane and it's only one lane, one person has to make the left-hand turn first. And it does get a little scary when you do have another car coming right at you. So stop early and try to figure out where they're turning, and they can try to figure out where you're turning. Now, the other thing I want you to write down in your notes, you should also use that shared left turn lane to get into traffic. So if you're off to the side of the road on a side street and you want to make a left-hand turn and traffic is way, way too busy in the direction that you want to be heading, but there's no cars coming from the left. None. There's not a single car that you can see. So cross those two lanes, get your vehicle parallel with the yellow lines, and wait there with your right directional on until there's a gap in traffic, and then move out. I should try to make a video of this so you can understand it, because I think, trying to explain it like I am right now, there's probably a lot of you just shaking your head trying to figure out what is actually going on. It's kind of, the shared turn lane is like what you had in your textbook when they talked about reversible lanes. So in your notes, I want you to write down reversible lanes are for use early in the morning and late in the evening. And the middle lane is going to be the one that changes. And as it talked about in the textbook, that always try to stay under a lane that has a green arrow. So the furthest lane to the right will always have a green arrow. The more you get towards the middle, you're going to start getting your flashing yellow or a red light telling you not to be in that lane. So that middle lane is the lane that's changing. So stay to the outer lanes if you're not quite sure what to do. So this is what it looks like in the morning. This is what it looks like at night. It goes in the opposite direction. So a lot of you are saying, I don't think I've ever seen that in New Hampshire. I don't think there are any reversible lanes. There aren't. There's none that I know of. Now in Massachusetts, we do have one. And another term for reversible lane is a zipper lane, which means that they go in and they take a truck that mechanically moves what we call these concrete barriers. They're called Jersey barriers, and they move them over. Let me show you what it looks like, because my daughter lives in the area, and we went down to visit, and my wife was driving, so I took out my cell phone, and I took a picture of the Mass zipper lane. So this is what the Mass zipper lane looks like. Let me get out of here. So this is what it looks like. So we would normally be traveling to the right of those cones, but we moved over, and you can see those barriers to the left of us and to the right of us. So there's going to be a protected area for us to travel. That is that reversible lane. So we're able to travel it right now. Later in the day, it's going to go in the opposite direction. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so we move over to the left. If we weren't quite sure we should be here, we would have gone back to the right here at the flashing yellow light to get back into the flow of traffic. So this is protected. So let me tell you about a few problems that you would have. One is if you break down, like a flat tire or a mechanical problem, there is no shoulder for you. They're going to have to stop traffic behind you. Of course you stop traffic. They're going to have to get a tow truck that will go backwards all the way down this strip here to get to you, to tow you out. Okay, now the other problem is, look to the right, there's a green guide sign. Wonder if you wanted to take that exit. You should have never gotten the zipper lane. From the zipper lane, you can't get over to an exit. You've got to travel the whole distance of this particular roadway. And see how you're protected on either side, so really you don't have to worry about those large buses and trucks. But it is kind of narrow too, so you got to be very, very careful about holding your position. So it does have its benefits, and it does have its downfalls if you break down. The only thing I want you to write down here, because we've already covered, is HOV. HOV stands for high occupancy vehicle or carpooling. So that bottom symbol is what our carpooling would look like, all right? And you're going to see those signs. And that means you should have at least 2 or more people in your vehicle to use the HOV lane. Now, also in some states, they're allowing just one person to be in the car, the driver, that has a energy efficient vehicle, like a hybrid. They're allowing people to use these particular lanes if you have a hybrid, high-efficiency vehicle. I do want you to know this. I think I mentioned this when we talked about the HTS. The interstate system is broken up into a code, and the code is the odd first number on an interstate, like Route 17, goes north-south. An even first number, an example would be Interstate 80, will go east-west. So anytime that you are on an interstate, if you look at the number, you should be able to figure out which direction you're going. A little bit more complicated when you're on a state route. So if you look at the green guide sign down below, we have 202. So a 3-digit state route, which 202 is, an even first number goes through or around a city. A 3-digit odd first number goes through a city. The 2 examples that we have in Durham is 108, 1 being an odd number, and 155. All right, so we have 2 3-digit routes in Durham, one on one side of Durham, one on the other, and they run parallel to each other, going towards Dover. So that's the code. Interstate 11, Interstate 16, back there are just really specific. They go all over the place. Those are only 2 digits. Now, this is a display stop line that I was talking about earlier. Notice the left turn lane, 2 lanes that are turning, stops about probably 8 to 10 feet before the lanes to the right. And that allows for the movement of large vehicles that could be coming into the area. So you couldn't be stopped even with the cars to the right. You'd get hit in a bad situation. And I thought this was kind of funny. If you look really, really close, here's a display stop line that we have in Durham over near the ice hockey rink. It's a state trooper in front of a motorcycle in front of us that stopped in front of the stop line. His whole vehicle is in front of the stop line. How bad is that? Because notice, what color is the traffic light? It's red. So he is definitely in the wrong. I should probably blow up the picture and try to find out what the license plate number and see if one of my police officer friends could give me an idea of maybe who's driving that cruiser. Then that way they can give him a hard time. Doesn't it bother you when you see police officers not following the law that they're telling you to uphold? School just started a month ago. And I believe elementary school kids are going to school, so school buses are out picking up, dropping off kids. So this is extremely important. And by the way, the fine for going by a school bus with flashing red lights is $500. Whoa, that's a lot of money. That's a lot more than a speeding ticket. They treat going by a school bus with flashing red lights the same as they do drinking and driving in New Hampshire. That's how many points you get on your license. And the fine is pretty close to $500 too on your first drinking and driving offense. So it's pretty serious. So what can we learn from school buses, or what should we know? The first thing is yellow lights will always come on first to warn you that the red lights are coming on next. So just like a traffic light, yellow is warning, telling you something is about to happen, and you need to stop 25 feet behind in front of a bus. It's better to stop more than less. So a lot of people say, Mr. Toll, I have no idea what 25 feet looks like. So my recommendation to you would be, can you squeeze 2 car lengths in front of you? If it looks like you could put 2 cars in front of you, that's the 25 feet. If it looks like you could probably put 8 cars in front of you, you're stopped way too far back. I know I said more is better, but that's way too much, because people may not know why you're stopped and they'll go around you, and then they won't have time to get back in. Now, also watch for children after they leave the bus, because they do linger around sometimes. Okay, so let's take a look, and I did take a picture of this. This was in Durham. We were out on a back road, and the student was driving, and I took out my phone and I took a picture. So you got to see the stop sign is telling you can't go around. The bus has to wait for all the kids get well off the side of the road. All right. Once the bus driver thinks that they're going down their driveway, if they've crossed over, then the sign pushes back up against the bus, and then the bus continue on. Do not pass a bus on a back road like this. You just never know when those yellow lights are going to come on. And this was a couple years ago, but it came online and I was able to videotape the newscast. I think it was like in a 3 to 4 day period, there was like 4 or 5 kids that were killed going to their bus because people tried to get around the bus. They weren't paying attention. They were going too fast, or they were on their phones. It was devastating. It was a terrible time. So I said, I've got to use this for driver's ed, especially since we're so close to the beginning of school. We have to remind ourselves, go slow around neighborhoods at the beginning of school and after school. So here's the fatalities that I was talking to you about.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Terror at a school bus stop in Tampa this morning.
I didn't know which kid to help because there was so many laying on the ground.
Witnesses say a speeding car slammed into 5 children and 2 adults, leaving 1 child in critical condition. The driver now in custody. One of 4 accidents at school bus stops in just the past 3 days. In central Pennsylvania this morning, a 7-year-old killed in a hit and run. The driver never even stopping to help. While in Mississippi, this man is now charged with aggravated assault after a 9-year-old was struck and killed. And in Indiana, a community is mourning 3 siblings killed this week crossing the road on their way to the bus. That driver also facing charges. Some 25 million students nationwide ride a school bus, but experts say getting on and off can be the most dangerous time, especially this time of year. Right before daylight saving time ends, it's often dark as children wait in the morning. So reflective clothing or backpacks can help, and teach children to line up away from the street, stay alert, and never assume a driver will stop. A deadly lesson learned the hard way for so many this week. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, New York.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking.
Isn't that sad? I, I can't imagine a family losing 3 children. I think that's all of them. Can you imagine losing all your children? Must be just heartbreaking. How do they function after something like that? But all because of negligence. All that doesn't have to happen. We have to be better. So those are the 3 kids. That's a picture. That was an article that I found that kind of went along with the video that we just saw. Let's talk about railroads. We do have many railroads in the area. Railroads have a tendency to, like Amtrak, get passengers to the city, people to work, but we also have cargo trains that get dirt, salt, lumber, high volume of traffic. Because of traffic, they use trains, what I'm trying to say. So what are some of the regulations that we've got to remember? One thing we've got to remember is that don't stop too close to the track. So I want you to write down in your notes, stop no closer than 15, no more than 50. The reason why it's 15 is because the train derailing. All right? So anything closer than 15 and the train is going to come right down on top of you. More than 50, they're going to go around you, and then they probably won't be able to stop. They're going to end up going over the tracks. There's not enough distance to bring their vehicle back in. And also look for double tracks. This is the sign that we have here. Shows that there's 2 tracks. So even though there's a train going by and you think, oh, the train's gone by, now I'll be able to go around the gate and go. No, there could be another train that you just don't see. It's kind of hidden by the train that's going. So I'm going to show you road safety with railroads.
The first train car northbound is on fire. We have multiple injuries.
600,000-ton train that could be barreling down and hitting you.
We hit a big truck. We're on the ground.
It's a horrifying experience.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh!
Hundreds of people are killed at crossings every year, and these are completely preventable. One of the ways we can prevent these accidents is for the public to do their job. The emergency notification system provides motorists or pedestrians with a phone number that they can call, and then we'll be able to stop train traffic that's heading in that direction. It's the first phone call you want to make if there's anything happening at a crossing. You want to stop any oncoming train.
Every grade crossing is protected with an emergency notification sign. What that provides is an emergency notification phone number that the passenger or the motorist can immediately notify the railroad of any emergency at that crossing. The locator crossing number, which is 6 digits and a letter, can effectively tell the train dispatcher exactly where they are. When you call that number, you're talking to the train dispatcher that's specifically associated with that railroad.
You'll get a response right away. This train dispatcher picks up, and he's going to ask, what location are you at? You give him that DOT number. You stay clear of the tracks. Let the dispatcher handle everything from that point on. Once you get that call in, for me to contact the locomotive engineer on the train, it could be 5-10 seconds. I'm going to get him on the radio immediately and say, bring your train to a safe stop. We have an emergency situation ahead. Calling 911 is not going to stop the train from coming. The first responder is your train dispatcher in this case. That 800 number is going to get you right to the first responder.
Unfortunately, far too often people get complacent around railroad tracks. That's really a recipe for harm or disaster.
If you're towing a vehicle, if you're a fire engine responding to an emergency situation, you still need to let the railroad know that you're in that space, that you are close to the tracks or you're on the tracks.
The ENS sign can be located in many places, either on the crossbuck, directly at the crossing, or on the silver box, which is usually located adjacent to the crossing. So you should call it if you suspect that the gates are malfunctioning, if you see a vehicle that's stuck on the tracks, if you see any suspicious activity, if you see something that looks out of place, or an object that's obstructing the tracks. As soon as your vehicle is stuck on the tracks and the crossing is activated, you need to get away from that vehicle as soon as possible and run at a 45-degree angle towards the train. Far too many times we see people trying to save their vehicles, and the unfortunate reality is when they're trying to save their vehicles, in many cases they lose their life.
These incidents also have a profound impact on locomotive engineers, because that individual may have long-term effects from this incident that affect them professionally and personally.
Stop, it's not gonna stop.
If something happens and you are stuck on the grade crossing, the first thing you want to do is get your car off. So just drive through the gate. The gates are meant to break away, and so you will be able to get to the other side. You never want to be stuck at a crossing. So don't try to get over the crossing until you know you can get to the other side. Don't be stuck in traffic and sitting on a grade crossing, on a railroad crossing, in the path of a train.
We got one possibly trapped in the train, possibly alive. I got a DOA in the train as well.
It's a horrifying experience. We've had careers that have been ended as a result of these incidents.
Every one of these accidents breaks our heart, and we need to do everything we possibly can to keep people off those crossings and away from trains.
A lot of folks look at active grade crossings where you have gates and arms as an inconvenience and an annoyance. Those arms are not there to prevent you from being where you want to be, but to help you get there safely.
Okay, some good things to follow in case the gates don't work, what to happen if you get stuck. Now, driving, or some of the things we're talking about here in driver's ed are things like CPR and first aid. They're really good to know, but what are the chances you're going to ever have to use it? Some of the things probably never. But guess what? There are going to be a few people, and who knows who they're going to be, will have to use it. So that's why we always try to incorporate into the program what is the worst case scenario when it comes to trains? What is the worst case scenario when it comes to a car crash? So this is why we're talking about some of these things in class. So just want to let you know, I don't think you're going to have any real problems, at least driving with me with trains. But like I said, you just never know. Okay, let's talk about the word right of way. What we're trying to do here is to have a basic understanding of when we come to an intersection where there are other vehicles around and it looks like we're both wanting to use a certain part of the roadway at the same time. Well, who's going to use that particular part of the road at the same time? So the definition for right-of-way is the law doesn't give anyone the right-of-way. It only says who must yield it. So it says who must wait, okay? So sometimes people will take the right-of-way away from you, meaning that you know that you were there first, but they still speed up and they get in front of you. Just give it away. Just let it happen. Be the bigger person. So generally at an intersection with no traffic control sign or signal, the vehicle on the right has the right of way. They're the ones that are going to be, going. All right. Now, there are some other situations, and they're from the manual, so I'm going to kind of go over all these right now. So there's like 8 of them, and I think I missed one with the one I don't have up is funerals. Did you know that? People that are leaving a funeral home and going to the cemetery, and they're behind the hearse, behind the, the casket and the hearse, they can run traffic lights and stop signs. They have the right of way at all intersections. They can just keep on going through car after a stop sign, stop sign, stop sign. Could be like 50 cars in a row. They can all go. So they've got the right of way. So the first one is the most obvious. A vehicle in the intersection has the right of way over a vehicle preparing to enter. Okay, so if you're just getting there and there's someone already there, they get to go first. A vehicle going straight has the right of way over someone that's turning left, and we're assuming that both arrived at the same time. Third one, emergency vehicles, but this only takes place if there are emergency lights or sirens going. If you see a police car, I can still remember the student. I don't remember if it was male or female, but I do remember we were driving downtown downtown Dover, and there was a police officer behind us in a cruiser, and she pulled right over. I think it was a girl. We pulled right over to the side of the road. I go, "What are you doing?" She goes, "There's a police car behind us." I said, "So? It doesn't have its lights on, doesn't have the siren on." She said, "Oh, I thought you told us in class you've got to pull over to the right when you see a police officer." Okay, only for an emergency. Pedestrians we talked about already tonight. Vehicle on a main road over the side road or driveway. Blind people we talked about tonight. And of course, drivers reaching the intersection first. So these are all situations that you would be giving up the right of way. We talked about emergency vehicles. I'm not going to show that clip anymore. This I will talk briefly about. Do not treat your vehicle like a toy, a game. It's serious business. So don't let people fool around on the hood, trunk, roof of your vehicle. Be extremely careful about what you do in a parking lot around other people, about going around in circles. Here's an article, and you'll always find these strange articles in the paper if you look long enough, as I do. A sister accidentally runs over her brother while they were clowning around in a parking lot. I think it was like a game of chicken. Can you imagine the phone call she had to make? "Geez, Mom, Dad, Jimmy's not coming home tonight." Don't screw around. Don't screw around. I would almost bet, there's only 8 of you in this class, but I will almost bet there's at least 2 of you, maybe 3 of you, that have been on the hood, roof, or trunk of a vehicle that was moving. Remember, under the age of 18, you have to be in a seatbelt. You shouldn't be on a moving vehicle, even in a parking lot. You never know when someone is going to roll over the hood of the vehicle because they lost their balance holding on and hit their head on the ground. And then you've got head trauma. Okay, these things do happen. This was UNH. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? There's probably like 12 kids in the back of that pickup truck. The other thing with the picture to the right, they're on the wrong side of the road. What in the world is going on? Okay, I don't get that at all. Okay, if he had to stop real quick or speed up because another car is coming, they're going to topple right over. Now, if they're older than 18, yeah, they're legal to be in the back of a pickup, but they should be sitting in the back of the bed of a pickup. This is just an accident waiting to happen. So, with carrying passengers and freight, don't let people sit on the hood, roof, or trunk of a vehicle. Don't be in the back of a pickup, as we just saw. Don't carry anything on the left side of the car more than 6 inches on the right side of the car. You never know when you get too close to something, it could hit something. Don't have more than 3 people in the front seat because they're going to interfere with the controls. Now, my philosophy is never to have more people in the car than you have seatbelts for. I am a staunch believer in seatbelts and airbags. Go figure, huh? So don't pile your car, even if they're older than 18. Shouldn't happen. Now, don't ride in a house trailer, utility trailer. Utility trailer is like what your dad uses to go to the dump. You know, has low rails on the side. You put your trash on. And a house trailer would be not a Winnebago, not a mobile, it'd be like one of these campers, okay, that is on a tow. Don't want to be in one of those while it's moving. Be in the pickup truck. And dogs need to be tethered. Most people don't know what the word tethered means. Tethered means that you're tying the dog to the left and to the right of the vehicle, to the bed of the truck. So there's a little bit of leeway in each direction. So the dog can, maybe move a foot in each direction. But what was happening is that they were just using a single leash and tying a dog. And the dog would see something and jump over the edge. And the owner wouldn't know that the dog has jumped over. And they would be driving down the road dragging the dog. So this is why they say tethered. I still firmly believe put the window down in the pickup and let the dog be with you. I'd rather have my dog with me than in the bed of the pickup. Okay, so all safety things to think about. All right, that gets us through that section. Now we want to talk a little bit about stopping. And stopping is one of the smallest sections in the manual. So we're going to kind of go through that relatively quick. So stopping is based upon a couple things. The first thing is, as we said, with inattention blindness and change blindness, how can you stop for something that you don't see? So it starts with our eyes, and then it gets to our physical ability to hit the brake, to go from the gas to the brake. And then the last thing that has to happen is what shape is your vehicle in? Most people don't think of that, but there are a lot of things that go into play with your vehicle. This is why we have vehicle inspection. And I usually have gone over vehicle inspection by now, but this is the first class I've waited to cover it, and I'm going to do it a little bit later in this session. So eyes, write this down. 1, eyes. 2, your physical skills. And then 3, the condition of your vehicle. So you must see something up ahead to stop. Let's take a look at this. Let's see if I've got this queued up right. Yeah.
Just 5 miles per hour over the 30 miles per hour speed limit, how much further will it take to stop? 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, 12 feet, 13 feet, 14 feet, 15 feet, 16 feet, 17 feet, 18 feet, 19 feet, 20 feet, 21 feet.
Okay, what I want you to write down is always drop your speed by 5 miles per hour when you're in the city. I don't care if it's 30. I don't care if the speed limit says 25. There is so much that can go wrong. You're just, to go from one side of town to the other side of town doesn't take a long time. But that dropping down by 5 miles per hour gives you so much more stopping distance. It allows you to have quicker reactions to what is happening out on the roadway. So I can't stress enough, slower speeds are always going to be a better ride for you and your passengers. A faster ride, you're going to have super quick reactions and hope and pray that your car is able. And I can just imagine if you had a pedestrian like we saw in that video, have a pedestrian come out in front of you, you're just hoping and praying that your car will stop. There's nothing worse than to hit your brakes and just hoping that you're not going to hit a person. It happens so quick, within a millisecond, you're going to have to make that correct decision. Now, this is kind of cool. When you have a crash, especially when there's injury or death, they're going to recreate what we call like a crime scene because it was a major accident. Someone lost their life. So they go back and they measure like skid marks. They look at where your vehicle was placed, what the speed limit was, what was the weather like, and they try to recreate, to see what really happened. Because when people try to recount what actually happened, they're usually kind of off. They don't get it right. So they try to recreate it. So what they've done for this commercial to prove the point, like I just said, about dropping your speed by about 5 miles per hour, they're going to show you two case scenarios of this is what happened, but this is also what could have happened if you would have gone a little bit slower. I thought this was kind of an interesting take on going slower when you're driving.
What you're about to see will change your mind about speeding. Two identical cars, one travelling at 60, the other at 65. A sudden change in the road ahead, and both drivers first react, and then, a moment later, they brake. And things start to get interesting. Down here, the difference is extraordinary. In the last 5 metres of braking, you wipe off half your speed. So this car is still doing 32 k's when it hits. This one also hits, but only at 5 k's. So no matter how good a driver you are, 5 k's difference up there makes 27 k's difference down here.
Okay, that was just it was an Australian video, but it's not the one that I was going to use. I didn't download the correct one. But you can see dropping by 5, especially on the highway, does have a lot of benefits. So make sure dropping by 5 is what you want to do. All right. Even when road and vehicle conditions are ideal, so we're talking about a perfect day. Like today was a beautiful day to be out driving. Not too cool, not too warm. It was great. A great day for driving. And even if you're perfectly alert, so we're not talking about someone that had just woken up or someone later in the day that could be a little bit tired. We're talking you're at your best. It says it takes a great distance to stop a motor vehicle. Through the use of good judgment and knowledge of stopping distance, you can reduce the chance of being involved in a crash. All right, so good judgment and knowledge. So that's what I want you to write down in your notes. You need to have good judgment and knowledge about stopping. So this is a little activity that we're going to have. I'm going to put the music on for a minute. Actually, I'm going to type it right on right now. I'm going to put down speed limits that I want you to give me the stopping distance for. Okay, let me just type it in here. And then I'm going to give you a moment to add to it. All right, so let me just add this to what we're doing. Let me move it over. Hopefully everybody can see it. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. All right, 20 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour. What I want you to do right now, and I want you to do it on your phone. Don't do it on YouTube because then everybody's going to see your answers. So I'm going to give you probably about a minute or two, and I know there's a time delay from what I'm teaching to when you're hearing it and responding back to me. So I want you to give me, from the time that you see something to the time that you stop, how many feet do you travel at 20 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour, and 60 miles per hour? All right? So I'm going to put on something, and then I'll come back on, and I'll tell you what people wrote down for answers. So give me total stopping distance, 20, 40, and 60. Okay, I got. Let me tell you what people wrote down. All right, and I'm not going to say who said what, but these are the numbers that I received from some of you. I think one or two of you didn't respond, so they'll be interested to find out who you were. So at 20 feet, or at 20 miles per hour, the numbers I got for people was 5 feet, 61, 50 feet, 20 feet, 35 feet, and 40 feet. All right. The correct answer, okay, from a study that they've done, they find 47 feet, so close to 50 feet. So if your number was below 50 feet, guess what? You would have crashed into somebody. So let's double our speed. So we go from 20 to 40. So you're thinking, well, if I double my speed, shouldn't I double my stopping distance? This is what I want you to write down in your notes. There is no direct correlation between picking up speed and bringing it down. It will always take you longer to stop than to speed up. Always. All right? So at 40 miles per hour, 149 feet is the correct answer, or roughly 150 feet. This is what I had. No lie. I had someone that said you could stop at going 40 miles per hour. You could stop in 10 feet. 10 feet, your car is longer than 10 feet. 156. So whoever had 156, somebody did say 150. So you guys were right on. Someone said 50. Someone said 120. Someone said 55. So some of you were right, dead perfect. And then at 60 miles per hour, the correct answer is 366 feet. So I had 20 feet, 282, 200 feet, 100 feet, 240, and 75. So everybody was way short on that one. So can you imagine at 60 miles per hour, you're going the length of a football field from the time that you go to take your foot off the accelerator, go to the brake, and stop a vehicle. Now, we're talking about a safe stop. We're not talking about skid marks and, coming to a screeching halt because you're not going to stay in your lane. We're talking about stopping a vehicle. All right? So most people underestimate what they're actually able to do. This is why people are getting rear-ended, because you see the car slowing down in front of you and you go, oh, I got plenty of time. Then all of a sudden you have that moment where you go, oh my goodness, I'm going to hit them. And you're hitting your brakes super hard. And you're hoping that you're going to miss hitting them. And sometimes you don't. You don't stop and you do hit them. So I want you to write down these three things. And this is kind of like what I was alluding to earlier, but this is what the state says. Okay, to stop your vehicle, three things. You must see and recognize the danger, the need to stop. We already talked about that, so we know that one. 2, your brain must tell your foot to stop or step on the brake pedal. This is you. This is your reaction time. This is how good you are. Okay? Everybody's going to be a little bit different in their reaction time. And then lastly, the brake being utilized and the brakes being used correctly. That's the car part that we talked about. So those are the 3 parts to stopping your vehicle. And I really, the way that it was written in the manual before this one, I liked a lot better because the section of braking was before the section on speed. My firm belief is that if you have a good concept of what it takes to stop your vehicle, you're never going to get into trouble with your driving. You're going to have a healthy perspective of following distance and when to brake. Those of you that like to go fast and think that you can stop for anything and the quickest amount of time and the shortest distance, you're going to get into trouble. Always think about being able to slow down and stop rather than what it feels like to go fast. And don't let that drive the way you move the vehicle. A lot of people drive fast because they like the feeling of it. But if you really thought about what the damage is that you could do in an emergency situation, I would hope it would persuade you that maybe you should, think twice about going 10, 15 miles over the speed limit, even though you think that you're safe. And we're going to see something about speed in a second. So what I want you to write down, and this is from the state manual, so I do want you to know this. I will test you on this, not only for the midterm, but also for the final. So let's talk about the 2 components of braking when it talks about reaction distance and braking distance. So the first one is human reaction. So the time it takes from the moment you see something as a danger and step on your brakes is called reaction time. So that's going from the gas to the brake. Now, the distance that you are moving at that point is called reaction distance. And what we have found, for every 10 miles per hour, you're going to probably go 11 feet when you go from the gas to the brake. So when you go from the gas to the brake at 30 miles per hour, if we multiply 11 by 3, you're going to go 33 feet. Just going from the gas to the brake, 33 feet at 30 miles per hour. Going 60 miles per hour, 66. 40 miles per hour, 44. And it takes the average driver about 3/4 of a second to get to the brake pedal. Now, braking time is the time it takes for the brakes and the friction between the road and the tires to stop the vehicle. Braking distance is the distance your vehicle travels during this time. You have to add up both those. So I'm going to probably do this at some point. I don't know if I'll have it ready for your class, but I'll use it for future classes because it used to be in the state manual. Maybe I'll do it for next week. I'll bring in the old state manual and take a picture of it. You'll see the graph. Okay, so you have to add up human reaction distance and braking distance to get total stopping distance. And it does take a long distance to stop a vehicle at highway speed. That's the thing that I want you to remember. I don't have those videos. I do want you to realize that there are other factors that come into play for stopping a vehicle, and some of those other factors would be, are you on dirt or are you on pavement? Do you have good brakes or do you have bad brakes? Do you have good tires or bad tires? Do you have wet weather or is it perfectly dry? Is it snowing? Is it ice on the road? Are there potholes? Because the condition of the road, how it's bumpy, your suspension is going to go up or down, so you're not getting the weight of your vehicle pushing down onto the roadways to stop your car. So it will take a longer distance to stop when the road is in rough condition. So all these things have to come into play when you're driving, and you've got to assess that when you get behind the wheel of the car. Let's take a look at tires for a second. Let me show you one on tires.
We tested the effect worn tires have on stopping distance. 60 miles per hour on a wet road. 3 sets of tires, each with different tread depths. And 1 professional driver. When the driver accelerated to 60 miles per hour, watch what happened when he tried to stop. While your actual distances may vary, it took him nearly 10 additional car lengths to stop on worn tires. So, when will you stop? Ask about our complimentary tire inspections.
So they didn't actually give you distances because the weight of the vehicle comes into play too, I should have mentioned. So those numbers that I gave you, they could be skewed a little bit. You could probably go, 20, 30 feet in either direction when you start talking about high performance brakes and decent tires. But we're talking about the average car. That's what I was giving you numbers for. So that's why they didn't want to get locked in. So that they just did distances, 10 times on worn tires. So this is why your cars are inspected to make sure that you're in decent shape. Now, we're going to have to get into the section on speed. I had wanted to get through most of this, so I'm still about 20 minutes or a little bit more than that off. Let me show you one thing about speed. Let me get out of here for a second. Speed is one of the biggest problems that I find with most students. Once you get comfortable with driving, most people like to go fast on what the speed limit is. So we're going to kind of get into it, and I don't know if we're going to get into it tonight or not because my throat's getting a little bit raspy from teaching all week. But speed is an important subject to tackle. I will tell you, and write this down in your notes, the state is going to do just as I do. They'll let you go a little faster, a little bit slower, but please, 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 do not find yourself going 5 over or 5 under the speed limit on your driver's test for any length of period of time, because it's going to hurt your chances of passing that day. They may want to see you come in again and drive for them again to show that you have control of the vehicle. Remember, speed limits have been set up by traffic engineers, what they feel that the majority of cars should be able to go and should go. We know because of weather and your condition, we just talked about tires. There are other factors that will come into play. I do know that when you have a flow of traffic, sometimes it's good to go with flow of traffic. But if you have a chance to be in another lane to get closer to what the true speed limit is, I would recommend doing that. So I'm not adverse for going a little over the speed limit for a short period of time. I'm not going to hold you to, going 30 for every second that you drive, because no one can do that. Your parents can, I can't, the police can't. Anybody that tells you that they go the speed limit all the time is lying. But you should never, ever follow someone too closely, and you should never drive unsafely at any speed. So I'm not even talking about a number. I'm talking about position on the road and how you're making your turns. So if your car is all over the place, not in between the lines, or you're making wide turns, I don't care what your speed is, you're going too fast for whatever you're doing. So speed does come into play. And I want to show you a video that will go to show that you can be extremely nervous when someone's driving too fast. And by the way, you are liable for everybody that's in your vehicle. So when you get your license and you're driving and you get into a car crash, they get hurt, the people in the back seat, you're paying for their injuries. You're responsible for them. So when someone is telling you as you're driving, stop clowning around, go slower, listen to the people that are in your vehicle. Okay? They have a life. They have a right to speak up because they don't want to die. They don't want to get hurt. Now, you may not want them in the car, and you have that prerogative to say, get out of my car. But guess what? Most of the time, if they're your friends, they're speaking into a situation where you should have probably more sense, and you're letting the feeling of going fast get to you. Just because you think you are in control doesn't mean that you are in control. Let me show you this video, and you're going to see at the very end how things kind of change. I think it's one of the funniest. I laughed so hard when I saw this video, because in a way, I kind of feel this way when I have some of you in the vehicle driving with me for the first time, because I don't know what type of driver you are, you know, and I really don't want to crush your feelings to let you know that you're doing this wrong or going too fast. So I kind of try to subtly bring you back into an area of being a safe driver. But I thought this video was so apropos about talking about speed. So let me show you this.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Nice and easy. Just head on out, and whenever you're ready.
Are you ready to go ahead and drive? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, whoa.
That's all right.
A little more than I'm used to.
Yeah. It's got some power, so just get a feel for it. Okay. Okay, all right. Ease off just a little bit. Ease off.
So I was thinking a little more age on me, some wrinkles, a little dorky, maybe some facial hair. It was somebody that I can pull off a fun prank with. Let's go have some fun. My good friends at Pepsi Max have hooked us up with this cool cam. So these are the glasses cam to show you everything that I see.
How you doing?
Hello. I'm Mike.
Steve, nice to meet you, Mike. I saw you sort of gravitated towards the Camaro. You thinking about getting one?
Oh, no. This way too much car for me.
Well, it's a lot of power, but they've designed it to be very safe.
I don't know if I can handle it. I've never driven anything like this before.
Well, I tell you what, I think a way to really make you feel comfortable would be to put you behind the wheel.
You're good.
What are you driving now?
Oh, just a minivan.
Oh, yeah.
What am I
You're not
signing
obligated.
here?
You're not,
sure?
It's just a checkout sheet for a test drive. You're not obligated to anything. It's just so we know who's out. Let's go give it a drive.
I'm getting a little nervous.
No, I'll be right there beside you. There are your keys, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
You'll have to unlock it, Mike.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. What a car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we better buckle up.
Yeah, good call. Yeah. Power door locks. Standard, of course.
You are liable for any damages to the vehicle, so please stop the car, or at least slow down. Slow down. Slow down. You can't go through that gate, Mike. Stop! Stop! We're gonna get you.
Watch it! Watch out!
You're gonna wreck this car, and you're liable for it if you wreck it. Mike, stop the car! Stop the car right now! Not up here!
Yeah. No, oh my God.
Who do you think you are?
What do you mean?
I'm calling the cops.
No, you don't understand. It's not what you think. It's not what you think. No, it's just a prank. We're just having fun. Look, this is a camera. Here's a camera. There's cameras. Look, it was all just fun. Look, I'm Jeff Gordon. Sorry, man. Sorry.
Can we do it again?
Yeah.
Okay, don't you love the reaction that he just had at the very end? Can we do it again? Did you see how his demeanor and how his attitude changed about what just happened? If we go back and watch that video again, he didn't look like he was having a good time. He looked like he thought he was going to die. He looked like he felt like he was going to get injured, okay? You may think that you're in control, but look at what your passenger is saying to you, okay? They're not enjoying it. Okay, and if you are a passenger when someone else is driving, speak up. Say you're making me feel uncomfortable. Okay, don't tolerate that type of behavior because they aren't Jeff Gordon. They aren't a race car driver that's been trained to drive at that high speed. And by the way, I think even if I knew it was Jeff Gordon and he was going up on some of those ramps and spinning the car around, I think I would still be nervous. Okay, because that is not normal. That's not normal. And by the way, if the speed limit on a back road is 30, 35, and you're going 60 or 70, that's twice the speed limit. That's not normal. Okay, that's not normal. So I'm going to leave it right there for tonight. Like I always give you some time. Some of you haven't done your posters. I'm hoping that it's going to be videos. Just try to find a way to send it to me. Get your homework done. A lot of people did not do the chapters that I've sent out through the remote Facebook page. Those have to be done. Okay, I want those done. And take your time while you're doing them. Don't rush through them. Look for the answers. Next week, we're going to get into parking on Tuesday, and we're going to also probably get into licensing. I think I'm going to cover the rest of this speed section. I was just looking at a day that I may not have a lot of material, and the day that we do highway traffic, I think I'm going to talk about speed a little bit more. So in your manual, make sure that you read, and there's 3 sections. Section 2, 4, and 7 should be read for next week. I may not go over the section on speed. Like I said, I'm going to wait till after the midterm to cover it, but there will be some questions on the midterm next week on speed. So you're going to have to do that from the manual on your own. Questions for Chapter 2. Those will be posted later. So come back later on the Facebook page. And those of you that don't have Facebook, Madison and I forgot, is it Catherine? I will get that information to you. All right. So that is it for tonight. Remember your drive times. Please try to schedule as much as you possibly can. Like I said, I've already got someone taking tomorrow at 3. So thank you, Julian. Sign up for Saturday afternoon, 3 and 4. I think I still have open. And Monday at 4 and 5 I have open. So please sign up. I may have to contact some of you. And drive with your parents. Start chipping away at those 40 hours. Okay? Madison, I'll be in touch with you about driving. And because you sent me your free time, we'll try to get something in next week on Tuesday or Wednesday. I did look at your schedule. I'll get back to you on that. So had a good week here in class. For the most part, people are sending in some material, some still lagging. But we're moving along. Remember, next week, midterm. So get all this stuff done. We're almost halfway through. So have a good night and have a good weekend if I don't see you. See you next Tuesday.